What up, Junkies? Welcome back to another great episode of Culture Junkies Live. I'm your host, Kenshiro, and today we're going to have the 166th episode of Culture Junkies Live. And today we're going to be talking about the king of all monsters, Godzilla, whose movie comes out on Friday. Is the sequel to the 2014 Godzilla film put out by Legendary Pictures. And it's going to be an absolute slobber knocker of a fight between him and a lot of his greatest enemies. So, but also we're going to talk about Aladdin that came out over the Memorial Day weekend. We're also going to talk about Brightburn and, you know, kind of maybe what this might mean for superhero movies of this take based on the very, shall we say, meager box office returns that it got. But first, introducing who's going to be on the show with me today, my boys, the great Dadakuji and Fallen Marvel. What's up, fellas?
Hey everybody, glad to be back, and yeah, that's cool.
Hello and good evening, fellow junkies. Glad to have you. We plan on having a really good show tonight, so partake if you will.
Right. Let's see. I believe LGZ hopefully will be joining us because she was so enthusiastic about Brightburn. She saw it three times, which is obviously a lot more than most people saw it because it only got a very little return in its box office. I don't know what's going to happen moving forward, but I don't know. Were you guys kind of surprised that it didn't really do that well in the theaters this weekend?
Oh, excuse me, I was muted. No, I don't think at all I was too surprised it didn't do well because despite what people were saying about Will Smith, Aladdin came out. That's number one. Number two, it's unknown to anything. When people go see superhero movies, specifically fans and normies, it's because, for the most part, those characters are known. They've been around for some of them 80 years, some of them, 50 years, what have you. So nobody knew anything about Brightburn. I personally didn't know anything about it until like a week or two before it came out. And that's no joke. And when I heard about it, I was like, okay, it's kind of cool that they brought this out, but I'd rather have seen Irredeemable. It's damn near the same story, except for it's a kid, and he didn't become good before becoming evil. At least as far as I know.
I mean, let's not try and spoil it for everybody. Well,
it's not spoiler. I didn't see it, so I have no idea.
I didn't see it either, so I'm just saying, But
I mean, the fact that you haven't seen it, but you can still give it a pretty fair guess. I mean, kind of tells you a lot as to maybe why or why not folks have seen it, really. And I mean, I think to their benefit, the movie really didn't have a huge budget at all. So it's I guess like whatever money it stands to make, it'll probably make its budget back. I think the budget was only $7 million. So.
Oh no, it already made its budget.
Did that.
It already made its budget. Yeah, that's right. So Lock Not Link, hi to you. Looks like you're watching on Twitch. Asking if we're streaming on YouTube. Yes, we are streaming on YouTube. In fact, I will put the link to our YouTube in the chat if you just bear with me for 1 second. And Sharita Jackson is checking in on another account, and she says she's so ready for Godzilla. I absolutely am with you. I mean, when we were at Motor City Comic Con a couple of weeks ago. I saw this shirt and I was like, dude, I have to have it because Godzilla 1985 was my absolute favorite Godzilla movie. So I absolutely had to get it when I saw it. Price was no option. Thank you for the follow on Twitch. Appreciate that. And there's the link to our Facebook channel for those of you that I mean, not our Facebook channel. I'm so tongue tied. Our YouTube stream, if you guys want to check us out over on YouTube. So yeah, so let's get right to it, fellas, and hopefully we'll be joined by some of the others at some point soon. So, as we were just talking about, Brightburn is kind of flamed out. The Dark Superboy movie only pulls in $9.5 million in this Memorial Day weekend. Oh wow, look at him! He's double dipping. Long Not Links on both. He's on YouTube and on Facebook, on Twitch.
Well, thank you very much.
Gotta appreciate that. Love it. Love it. Push up the streams even more. So, like we were talking about, it had a budget of like 6 to 8 million. It made its budget back, but it's not exactly a high, return on investment when you look at it's only made 9.5 million. Now, it's very early, but seeing as the week, Godzilla's getting ready to come out this Friday. There's other summer movies that are going to be hitting. I don't really think, I just don't really think that that Brightburn's gonna make much more.
Well, it doesn't need it. See, the whole thing about it doesn't need to make much more. If you look at it, it was, first off, it's not a movie that anybody was expecting to come out and do much of anything. If the budget was 7 million or what have you, and it made 9 million, people who invested are getting their returns, though it's not a whole bunch. And the best part about movies is that after they have a run in a theater, they come out on DVD and or Blu-ray. People still buy DVDs, I don't know, but regardless of that, and a lot of movies that you and I loved growing up became what we like to call cult classics. They're still going to make money off the DVD shelves. People are going to see it. People maybe talk about it. Who knows? But that doesn't stop it from being a good movie. It just, only thing that stops it is it was Memorial Day weekend. A lot of people out there barbecuing. A lot of people out there doing, going out to beaches if the weather was nice and all that other good stuff. And Aladdin came out. So it's like, most people that go see movies nowadays, I think the majority of people who see movies are not movie watchers in the same sense as you and I may be, especially me. I really like to watch movies, and I'll watch almost any kind of movie you put in front of me. If it looks interesting, sounds interesting, I'll watch it. And there's people out there that only watch the big budget movies. There's some people out there, that only like to go to watch, certain genres or whatnot in the theater. And that one just probably wasn't one of them. It's not a big name anything. I don't even know who's in the movie. That's the marketing on it.
Elizabeth Banks, I think that's her name.
I think she's the most notable person in the movie.
She is the most notable person, yes.
Well, okay, I've heard her name before, so there's somebody out there. But it's just I don't know. It looks like it was going to be an interesting movie. Really, the marketing behind it, like if they put more money in, if 7 million is the budget, that means that's the movie and the marketing. Unless they, and they didn't put any money in the marketing at all.
That's true. That's true. They didn't. You're right. They
literally could have rode the wave of Thanos if they wanted to. Just somehow. I'm not a marketer.
I don't know, man.
I'm just saying I don't have the what you call it, but granted, the movie of Thanos is him, not winning like the last one. If it came out last year, they could have or something. Not necessarily. I don't know. Whatever. I don't know what the hell I'm talking about. I'm just saying that it is a superhero movie where you have an extremely strong villain. Mm-hmm. And I don't think they marketed anything. So it's just like, whatever,
Yeah. No, I hear you. But when you have a movie that's made on this meager budget, you've got a very popular director, if not controversial director, attached to it in James Gunn. The subject matter.
I forgot about that.
Right.
He actually directed it?
Yeah. No, he did. He did direct it.
Yeah, they really didn't push this movie.
I think they did, but I think they did.
They were trying to use his name to push it because I think he was producing it. Mm-hmm. Like I don't think he directed it, but
I could have sworn he directed it. No.
No. James, he produced it, and then his brother and someone else wrote the movie, but I don't remember who directed it. But James Gunn definitely was I would assume, like one of the financiers behind it, if anything else. But he's credited as producer.
Well, that is still kind of surprising, but not necessarily surprising because, again, I think the biggest thing is the budget not the budget for the marketing. Number two is it's not a superhero movie. It's more of a horror movie. And people just don't, I don't know if it's not something that's recognizable. It seems nowadays they don't pay attention to it. I mean, I wasn't there day one, and I was planning to go see it after work yesterday, and that didn't happen, and I didn't have to work today, and I kind of didn't go see it today, and I don't feel like I'm missing anything. I do want to see it, but it's not like it was like, oh, I got to be there like, the Avengers. I got to see that day one because I don't feel like I'm missing anything,
Right.
But
so Meow Yin's in the chat, and obviously she wanted to be on the show with us today. She couldn't make it. But she's saying people are calling it the Dark Superman or Dark Superboy, so it's already lost its identity. But honestly, that's kind of the only thing it really had going for it, that it was a dark take on Superman. I mean, honestly, that's literally what it was. That's what it was based on. That's what it was supposed to be. And to me, this was the wet dream of a lot of those Snyder fans that that absolutely loved the darker, more grittier take on Superman that was portrayed in less Man of Steel, more Batman v Superman. And it's almost like be careful what you wish for type deal, because here they pretty much gave you the movie kind of that you were looking to see in a way, a Superman or a Superman story that is kind of where he's not lost, where he doesn't have his morals and he's willing to be really violent and end his threats in the most violent fashions imaginable. And it didn't do very good, because I think this is not a story the vast majority really want to see. And no matter how many times we kept telling them that, they didn't want to listen. You know what I mean? So what do you guys think?
See, that's kind of hard to say that nobody wants to see it. I kind of agree with Meow Yin. I mean, it's true they didn't want to see it, but again, they know about it. Like I said, as much as I love movies, as much as I like to watch movies, I personally did not know about it, mainly because I don't watch TV in a general sense anymore, so I don't see commercials. So all the stuff I see is like I have to, actually seek out for it. And if it doesn't slap me in the face, I'm probably not going to know about it, unfortunately. But just like talking about the comic book series Irredeemable, it was a comic book, and I think something like that probably would have had a bigger budget behind it. I think it would have had better marketing, mainly because of the Avengers and Marvel and all that other stuff. They would have definitely let you know that this is a superhero movie with a twist, and you basically got to watch the movie for a twist. Whereas it's portrayed as a horror movie because the kid has superpowers. I mean, just from the stuff that I saw, the trailer that I did see, they definitely marketed it as a horror movie. Now, you just have to, some people have to be in a mood to go see horror movies. I think horror movies do better at certain times of the year, I guess. I don't know if Memorial Day weekend is that time. I have never really paid much attention outside of, the fall season.
Not that I recall. This is usually kind of like a really poor time for that. Like if it's not between, because typically the release dates for horror movies are usually between January and March. And then you have like somewhere between like August and November.
Exactly.
So like that's usually the time frame for horror movies. So maybe this was just I mean, you could say I would probably argue that it might be bad timing, because once again, we also had Aladdin come out this weekend.
Exactly.
It's like, hey, competing with a juggernaut already, So
right. Right.
But I think besides that, I mean, I guess like it's not to say that the concept of it wasn't interesting enough, but like I think that it's, I guess because it's actually something that was executed off of a familiar mythos. The thing is, what I think it was is because it's sort of already been something that people would have either already familiarized themselves with, or they pretty much kind of already knew it was like, it's just a Superman story with a twist.
Well,
Okay.
here's the other thing that factors into it too. I think word of mouth got out about this film from the Thursday screening, and from a coworker of mine went to go see the film on Thursday, and he came back and told me about it on Friday. And his words exactly were this: he was like, "Dude, I hated it." He was like, "I hated it because it was written very poorly. A lot of the stuff in there, a lot of the motivations in there just didn't make any sense. It was laughably bad. Some of the decisions that were being made by the parents and even by some other characters in the film, it was just really, really bad, from execution." He was like, he said in the theater that he saw it in, which was kind of sparsely packed, he says that there were tons of people laughing in the theater, like laughing at some of the events that were happening in the theater. And one guy who obviously was, very enamored with the subject matter and loved what was happening in there, he screamed out, he was like, "What the F are you guys laughing at?" Like literally, he said that out loud. And it was like he just couldn't understand why people were viewing this so bad. And that was almost like a microcosm of the general audience for BVS versus the diehard Snyder fans. It's like a lot of them just don't understand why the general audience just wasn't feeling that treatment, and it was literally a microcosm of that. So
I can see that. I could see that just kind of like a movie like that only working for a very small niche of an audience. Now, just in addition to that, just like once again, you could probably mess around and just put this movie in the same vein with, James Gunn's early movies like Slither, and stuff like that. You put it in the same vein as that and look at it this way, look at it that way. But, I think like there is something there that has like, because from my perspective of it, from what I know of it, like I don't think it was really, I wouldn't really say that it probably was a bad movie, but I just think it's probably just something to where it's just not really going to gravitate with everyone because they kind of go into it with already a preconceived notion with this type of movie. Because like it's not even the fact that like, oh, it's a horror movie, but it's like, okay, it's just a Superman horror movie, and it's like people kind of go into that, and then it's like certain, whatever, folks gonna have their interpretation of it. Like,
you know what, you know what. Hand of Omega brings up a very good point. He was like, "Has everyone forgotten Chronicle? That was practically this already made, and it was Chronicle was much better done. I loved Chronicle. I thought Chronicle was a great movie for its time. In fact, I loved it so much that I was wholeheartedly in the tank for Josh Trank to do Fantastic Four, and we kind of know what happened after that. Fan Forstic, yeah." If we could take that back, I would love to do it. I would love to. But anyway, hindsight is always 20/20.
So with that being said, I wonder if that's kind of like some things to come when New Mutants finally drops.
Yo, you know what? I was really excited for New Mutants when the trailer first came out because I thought it was going to be a refreshing take, and it was pulled from an established graphic novel. So I was willing to give it a shot. But I don't know, man. I don't think that movie will ever see the light of day. Or if it does, it's not coming out in the theaters. I mean, really. How many times are they going to keep... Whoa, Miao-Yen says, "I don't know what Chronicle is." Girl, as much as you got on me about The Fifth Element, you need to go see Chronicle.
Fifth
Chronicle
Element is a lot older than Chronicle.
No, it is. But Chronicle was that good of a movie.
It was
Michael
like B. Jordan.
Michael B. Jordan. It was like Michael B. Jordan's coming out party. That movie.
Yeah,
that was literally like his coming out party.
That's a movie I'm gonna have to go back and check out because like that one kind of flew under the radar with me when it came out. So I still have to see it too.
I was so impressed. It was like Chronicle was a found footage film. Was almost like a half and half found footage film with actual regular movie. But it was really good. It was really, really good. Like really well done. Because I liked the premise of it. And Chronicle was just one of those movies where you sit down and watch it, you can kind of get what what the scriptwriter was going for. It wasn't really there was nothing really like it that was out there. Chronicle had Michael B. Jordan. It had Dane DeHaan, who if young brother gets typecast as a villain all the time, I don't care.
Because Green Goblin.
Yes, he was. I was gonna say if he gets typecast as a villain all the time, it's okay because he just has that face. He does. He has the face of a villain.
Yeah,
he does.
It's unfortunate.
It's
unfortunate, but it is what it is for him. Make that money, dude. I mean, I wish I could be typecast.
He's good at it. He's good at it.
But you know what? It's kind of ironic because in that same vein, he could probably be kind of go down the same road Willem Dafoe took. Because he's like one of those guys that can bounce back and forth and still do it so well, So it's ironic because both of them played Green Goblin at one point. So it's just like it's kind of ironic.
Yeah. Yeah, it is.
Yeah,
but
I would suggest checking out Chronicle, seriously.
Yeah, absolutely.
Even if you're just a fan of comic book style movies or superhero, whatever, and Michael B. Jordan.
And Chronicle was made at a time when the superhero bubble hadn't really blown up like it is now, So but yeah, I would really, recommend checking it out. I know that at the end they say they teased like an Aquaman parody or a Wonder Woman parody at the end of Brightburn. But with $9.5 million return, even though it made its budget, I'm not sure there'll ever be a sequel. Brightburn. But
if they leave it at that, it'll probably be fine because it's like I don't think it's a movie that's meant to have like its own franchise. I think like it was meant to tell the story it was supposed to tell, and then just leave it at that. And it's just basically like, okay, yeah, everybody's screwed. So. I honestly really don't think that was a movie that was meant to just like, we're going to turn this into its own franchise. Like, I don't know. I think it's something that probably could have just been left ambiguous and just left at that the way it ended. So,
Netflix should have picked that up and put it out on there.
They could have like one, but whatever it is, it is what it is.
All right. So moving right along to the other movie that came out this weekend, Disney's Aladdin, which continued Disney's juggernaut streak at the box office. I think it made like over 250 million or something like this past Memorial Day weekend. And a lot of things were. A lot of people made a lot of bones about Will Smith and the way his genie looked. A lot of people, didn't think that the cast when they casted looked as sufficiently Asian enough for the cast, even though they kind of literally did look more like
Middle Eastern,
yeah. It was like a lot of people were mad that they weren't darker. That was kind of like almost halfway whitewashed. I mean, I'm just saying. This is what they were saying. I'm just saying
something. I'm gonna tell you something, right?
Here we go.
The Middle Eastern area, from my understanding, comes in, and I'm just saying it comes in a lot of various, colors. I was at my job once, and a dude who was from Egypt asked me if I was Egyptian because he said you look like you're from Egypt, and I'm like, no, I'm not. I'm from I've getting mixed up for a lot of other places on the world. I look, as my wife would say, in certain areas worldly. If I learned certain languages, I'd be able to fit right in. Portuguese, Spanish, Arabic, Farsi, I would fit in certain areas if I learned those languages. So Will Smith does look like somebody that would be in that area. So does the people else that were there. They're not all one same face. I'm sorry, that's just not how it works at all. My dad was watching some ABC News and he paused like, "Hey, that guy back there looks like you," and I'm just like, and they were showing something that was in the Middle East.
Your dad is wild, bro. Your dad is really wild, man.
So I have to tell you. It's just, gosh.
No, I get it,
man. But it's like they just can't be. Who are these people?
These are nameless, faceless keyboard jockeys. That's what they are. But on another note, what you're kind of saying is that you missed your calling as an international man of mystery. because you could.
I mean, she literally says I could probably be a spy if I learned all those languages like that. I ain't trying to be. What
would your code name be? You know, you almost like Austin Powers, you know, or something like that. You know, Dido Green.
No, Dido Green. Code name Fart Knocker. I don't know.
Yo, that's hilarious. Yo, that's hilarious. Anyway, so back to Aladdin. So Aladdin, you know, continues the big streak, and. You know, I saw earlier today that somebody was saying, "Oh yeah, Will Smith is back on top," and I was just like, "Wait a minute, really? This is Disney's Aladdin. First of all, it's Disney. Second, it's Aladdin. It was making money whether Will Smith was in it or not. I mean, I don't care. Yes. I mean, because you had the nostalgia built in, and you know, you had the memories of, you know, the kids that are now adults that wanted to take their kids to, you know, the movies, to experience these Disney movies in new ways that they didn't get to experience. I mean, man, you know, and overall, it was probably just a really good movie. Now, I wish Mal Yim was here because she actually saw the movie and she said that, you know, the Disney movies are usually known for their musical numbers, and that's kind of where this movie was a little bit weak. But still, Will Smith and Naomi Scott, who played Jasmine, carried the movie for us. So what are your thoughts on Disney and their streak of turning their animated classics into live action movies? They're kind of running out. It's getting kind of close.
They're not running out. They got a whole bunch of Oliver and Company's coming, and so
are you serious?
No, I don't know.
I thought you was for real.
Rescuers Down Under. They're just turning humans.
Oh man, that would be crazy.
Both of them. But for me, I don't care. I'm sorry. I'm not a fan of the live action cartoon. I mean, I can't say I'm not a fan. I have not watched any of them. They probably are very good movies. Maybe I'm being, you know, pig-headed and bullish, whatever. But the animated ones are extremely entertaining. I love them all, and I would rather just watch those. I don't feel a need for them to remake those into live action where they could just make new movies if they want to. There's tons of more stories out there Disney can steal. They don't have to just keep rebranding the same thing over and over again. So, I mean, it's neither here nor there. Like Dumbo was out, and I was supposed to go see that with my wife, and we didn't.
You didn't miss nothing. You didn't miss nothing. Yeah, apparently, Dumbo was very bad.
I think quite a lot of people passed on Dumbo when it came out. So
I don't know if it was Tim Burton that made him pass on it. Was it Tim Burton that made him pass?
No, I don't know if that made him pass. Because Tim Burton, I can't recall a bad Tim Burton movie. Everyone I've seen is entertaining. I like them all. But
I just think because it was Dumbo, honestly.
Yeah, it could be. Dumbo's not something that could be like that. I mean, I bought the animated one for my wife's birthday, and we watched it. First off, I didn't realize how short it was. Like, seriously, for a feature movie, it was only an hour long.
Yeah, I was about to say, was it like 50 minutes or something like that? Yeah.
Yeah, and as soon as he learned how to fly, the movie was over. And I was just like,
yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So I just didn't see how they could throw that into live action. But it just, the live action stuff to me is just, like, I watch Aladdin when it comes out on the Disney streaming service. That's when I'm gonna see it. I don't really have any I don't really have any rush to go see it in the theater. I haven't seen the only one I probably really want to see is
Lion King.
No, it's Maleficent.
And see, Maleficent isn't really a classic animated film because it's original.
Exactly.
Because it's original. So yeah.
That's why I want to see it.
No, and I get it. And I totally get it.
Granted, yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, for me personally, I mean, I guess up to this point, it's still been a working strategy for them to do live action versions of their animated features. If it works, I mean, ain't no reason for them to really not do it. Honestly, for me personally, the only other one that I've seen aside from Aladdin was Jungle Book, and I really enjoyed the Jungle Book. So that was a live action remake that I think was done really well. So if they could kind of keep that going, fine. I mean, I saw Pete's Dragon. It was wasn't bad, but didn't care about seeing Cinderella. A lot of folks said Beauty and the Beast was decent. you know, but that's not one of my favorites. So Aladdin came out, that was one of my favorites. Jungle Book, that's one of my favorites. Lion King is coming out next month, that's another one of my favorites. So it's like, of course I'm going to see those and go right into it. Now, as far as the movie itself, I really enjoyed Will Smith as Genie, and Naomi Scott did a pretty good job. I did like, I think it's Mina Masood that played Aladdin. He was cool. Like he wasn't like amazing or anything, but he was cool. Like I think he did his job or whatever. Was disappointed in Jafar. I was pretty disappointed with him. But I think overall I thought it was fine. You know, it was still very nostalgic with some familiar songs. They had some more original songs in there that I thought were pretty decent. So I do like that they were trying to add a little bit more to like the characters more so than the animation did. My only issue was that, like, I think because of the familiarity, they kind of sort of bypass certain things to kind of propel the story along. But they did try to I do give them credit for trying to like add like a little bit more to like all the characters. Like Jasmine had a little bit more, Genie had a little bit more, Aladdin himself, I think, had a little bit more. Hannah Jafar had a little bit more, but unfortunately, the person they got to play him, like, he didn't really bring the character all the way out.
You know, I have to say this. I'm glad you kind of brought up the whole Jafar thing, because I thought when I saw him in the trailer, I was like, isn't that the dude from The Mummy, the one that played the really shifty, shiesty, you know, sidekick dude that got on everybody's nerves? Wasn't that the same dude? It looks like him, but maybe it wasn't. Maybe it wasn't. But anyway, Miao Yin thought the dude was like was like a total snack. Like, she was ready to eat him up on the screen, I guess. So I guess he looked super fine, but that's not what you equate Jafar with. Jafar is supposed to be like this sinister, you know, shyster, menacing dude, and he just didn't look like that from the trailer. But I mean, he definitely looked like a schemer dude, like someone that was up to no good. He definitely had that look. Right, you can definitely tell he was that. But I remember Jafar with that, you know, of course, animated. You know, you can really, you know, accentuate some of the features. You know, Jafar had that pencil thin mustache, that really long face, them squinty eyes. Like, yeah, that's a bad dude. You know, you could tell just from one look. I'm just saying.
Yeah, like I kind of agree with that, and it's just, you know, it was kind of funny because I do remember when they first revealed who was playing Jafar, like how they were saying like Jafar was too good looking. So
yeah. Head of Omega was like Jafar was played by Watto from the Phantom Menace. Nah, yeah,
but yeah, I think that's like my only real issue that I had. I will say that one of my favorite moment, I think, was during their rendition of Friend Like Me. I do like what they did with theirs in that movie. And it's not really much of a spoiler, but still, it's like, first of all, the dancing in it was actually really well done. Like, they really put a lot of effort into those music numbers. And what I thought was kind of cool was like when it was like kind of coming to the conclusion of that part, like how they did that one little tribute to the Nicholas brothers. For those that may or may not be familiar, like if you kind of like research, like, you know, entertainers from like golden age of music and jazz and stuff, they threw some of that in there, like with a lot of the dance numbers. I thought that was pretty cool. So I really enjoyed that.
Okay. So obviously we know Aladdin had two other movies, both of them direct video. Do you see them possibly trying to milk this into more than just Aladdin?
No.
I think it ends right here.
If they ended it right here, I wouldn't be disappointed. I honestly really wouldn't. Like, if they wanted to go a little bit further with it and do Return of Jafar, they very well could, but I would advise against it. I think the movie as is just fine. Like, they don't have to.
Yeah, I think they need to. Yeah, I think they do need to just be, you know, complete one-offs and just keep it the way it is. You know, and Miao Yin doesn't want to be subjected to the guy that was playing Aladdin singing, because she said his singing was.
It wasn't that bad. Come on now.
She said it was bad. Almost like he was tone deaf, right? Almost like he was tone deaf. Was he that bad? Was he monotone? Like
No,
he couldn't carry a pitch.
He wasn't. No, he was not.
No,
he was not bad like that. No, like he carried a tune. That's just like, you know, he's tolerable. He's tolerable. Like he hasn't had to be like amazing, you know, Gerald Levert, Tevin Campbell out here or nothing like that. But you know, he carried the tune. It was sufficient. That's how I leave it.
Now, you know, Hand of Omega's got a pretty damn good idea. He was like, let's cast Little Mermaid, Melissa McCarthy as Ursula. Now, I'm surprised they haven't announced it yet that that the Little Mermaid is coming out, because I thought for sure that was going to be like one of the first movies that they made.
Because like at this point you would think they would have tried to do it in order, since they were kind of like doing like some of the other stuff like in chronological order almost.
Right.
But yeah, like that is one of the ones that I'm surprised they haven't done yet. Maybe, I don't know, maybe they didn't want to double dip since
coming.
Like Aquaman that came out.
I'm telling you, it's coming.
Maybe they're just waiting.
It's coming. It's coming. I'm telling you, it's coming. There's no way. There's no way they don't. There's no way they don't do that movie. No way.
Probably, that movie probably has like some of the most iconic songs like ever made by Disney. So it's just like, yeah, that's on its way sometime.
Yeah, I'm sure it is. So Miao said that Sword in the Stone. Let me go back. I'm trying to go back to what she said. It. She said.
Supposed to be Sword in the Stone, Cruella.
She said Cruella DeVille is, you know,
yeah, they are making a solo for her.
Yeah,
don't
Mulan,
even understand that.
Mulan, which Ming-Na Wen is going to be in. I don't think she's going to play Mulan though. I think she's a little advanced. I know Asian genes are really good, but I don't think she can pull off Mulan at her advanced age. She still looks fine, by the way. I'm just saying.
So Asian don't raisin.
Yeah, Asian. Never heard it. I've never heard it, you know, put like that. But yeah.
Our distant cousins age well.
Right.
What I'm saying.
So Mulan, Cruella DeVille, The Lion King, Pinocchio, and Sword in the Stone are all coming out.
Okay.
Pinocchio. I don't know, man. Do we really need? You know what?
No, we don't.
You know what?
We've had enough of those. Like, we've had multiple incarnations of Pinocchio since the original.
I think they did a live action, not Disney, but somebody else.
They did. Yeah, because Jonathan Taylor Thomas was Pinocchio. I remember.
Yeah, they did that a long time ago, didn't they? Disney themselves did it. That's right. It was like a made-for-TV movie, wasn't it?
Came out in theaters.
Sure.
Came out in theaters.
Really? Oh,
yeah,
okay.
I don't know if it was.
Remember, this was like when Jonathan Taylor Thomas was like at the height of his popularity back then. So yeah, that came out in theaters.
Like 1995, 96 era, you know, type.
Yep, about like a year. Yeah. About a year or two after.
Yeah, they're doing it again because they got Robert Downey Jr. attached to it. Apparently, according to IMDb, and it says
really? They say he was supposed to be playing Geppetto or something like that?
Yeah, they say it's in development right now.
Robert Downey Jr. as Geppetto. Yeah. Can you see Tony Stark being Geppetto, man?
I mean, do we have a choice?
Oh, man. That's going to be good, though.
Yeah, 2021, supposedly.
Okay.
But I could have sworn, Jonathan Taylor Thomas, Martin Landau, 1996. I mean, I guess that's been close to almost 20 years, so, you know.
Over 20 years.
Yeah, you're right. Sorry, over 20 years. So, yeah, of course, it's time for another one.
Yeah, obviously it is.
Even though that one was not Disney, because...
Yeah, who was that? By any chance, I forget.
This is... Who developed this movie? It was... I don't know, something stupid. Excuse me, the hiccups are real. Country, check... nope, that's not it. And why is it? Oh, New Line Cinema. There we go. It's Savoy Pictures, Continental Film. So New Line Cinema, basically.
So yeah, this was pre Warner Brothers, I assume. So yeah.
All right. So
bombed. Jesus.
It did. Yeah, but that's when nobody wanted live action fantasy story because, like, I think I like the take on Hansel and Gretel. Threw in a little bit of that machine guns and the hunting and the demons and the whatnots.
You talking about the one with Jeremy Renner in it?
That was like so stupid entertaining.
I still have not
seen
that.
At one point, I heard they were going to do a remake of that thing. Like, I mean, not a remake, a sequel. I could have swore they were going to do
Which one did get a sequel? What's the one with Matt Damon? Because he was in something similar to.
Don't mention Matt Damon. Don't mention Matt Damon.
We talking about the
Meow
Brothers
Meow
Grimm?
Yin might hop on the stream and hurt somebody.
I didn't see that one, Brothers Grimm, because those are the guys that supposedly made up all those stories. Yeah.
Yeah, the movie was decent actually.
Oh yeah.
Like from what I remember, it was actually pretty decent film. But the Hansel and Gretel one though, like you know what? When I first saw that they were making that, I had got the same feeling I got when they made Hellsing with Hugh Jackman.
I didn't see that either,
and that turned me off from it. So
yeah. I didn't see that either. Being totally honest, I didn't see that either. All right,
I'd sit down and watch it just because, but no.
You'd probably laugh if you watch it now, but yeah, just
pretty sure it would.
Yeah, that movie doesn't hold up too well.
Doesn't surprise me at all. All right, y'all. So it's time for the main topic. The main topic being the Big G, Godzilla, the King of the Monsters. It's been around for 65 years, dude. 65 years since 1954 when the first Godzilla King of the Monsters came out in Japan. And at the time, it was kind of a cinematic marvel with the special effects, the way they portrayed, this giant monster on the screen that could breathe fire, and destroy, buildings. In the 65 years since, he's been a hero, he's been an anti-hero, he's been a villain, but, people, for 65 years, for them to make 65 years worth of Godzilla movie, they got to be doing something right. So, what makes the series, really so popular in you guys' eyes? It's got to be a very simple formula. I mean, monster appears on the screen, a whole bunch of stuff gets blown up, maybe some fights happen, and at the end of the movie, Godzilla goes away to sleep for, and then another, comes back to do it all over again. So what do you guys think has been the lasting reason why Godzilla has lasted for 65 years?
The pure disaster that is left in Godzilla's wake. I mean, Godzilla as a series, just in general, it's essentially, they're pretty much all disaster movies, disaster stories with a pulse, okay? And it makes the fact that it's like, okay, this giant alpha king of the monsters is out here doing what he wants. As much as other monsters and the humans have tried, it's like they can't do anything to Godzilla. It's just like this man comes up, he comes along, wrecks shop, goes about his business, and nobody else can do anything about it. And it's just kind of been like this thing with him, and I don't know, like Godzilla is just like is a cultural icon in his own right.
Mm-hmm. Internationally too,
Yeah, and it's such a simple thing, but it's just left such a cultural presence even to this day. And it's like even things afterwards, like it was essentially, Godzilla is essentially the godfather of all kaiju type of stories. I mean,
Absolutely.
without that, we would have never got like stuff with the giant robots, Gigantor, even more modern anime like Big O and Mobile Suit Gundam, and of course, for Power Rangers fame and Voltron and so on. Like, we would have never gotten a lot of that stuff if it wasn't for like the impact of Godzilla and basically starting the kaiju series. So it's just like, dude's kid, he's the king of his domain. I mean,
yeah, absolutely. Because even though King Kong was made, I think, before him, right? The original King Kong was made before Godzilla.
Yeah, I think that was made back in like the 30s or 40s, if I recall.
So the original King Kong was made before Godzilla, but I guess what made Godzilla so culturally relevant was the social message attached to the first movie, because the point of his origin, back in the day, of course, was that he was the result of humans' experimentation with the nuclear bomb, and especially when America dropped the atomic bomb on Hiroshima. and the resulting fallout and impact of what it did to Japan as a country and a civilization. It's a walking, destructive reminder of the perils of messing with forces greater than man can probably comprehend, and the level of destruction that's left in his wake it's preaching a message saying, hey, humanity needs to be careful with the kind of evils that they unleash upon the world, lest they come back and bite them in the ass in the end. So I think it started from there, but even after that, so shortly after the first Godzilla came out in 1984, there was a run of films where Godzilla started to become more of a hero figure in what is commonly known as the Showa era of films, where he started fighting other giant monsters like him, and in a way he almost ended up being like a pseudo protector of humanity, because he would go up against these monsters that would want to subjugate humanity because they were always under the thrall of alien invaders and stuff like that. And it just started to get really, really silly, but Godzilla would always show up and, basically handle the monster and then go back again until he was needed. And, a lot of the kids, they grew up with those movies. You remember, like, when we were kids, watching them on Channel 20 or something like that every weekend on a Saturday, or Channel 50 when they would have the Godzilla movie marathons sometimes in the summer, showing those old 60s and 70s Godzilla movies. That's, that's kind of what we grew up on, So I think that's also got something to do with the longevity of the series. And of course, that kind of wore out its welcome after a while, because like when you have movies like, remember the most infamous of these is probably Godzilla versus Megalon. And Godzilla versus Megalon, when he was paired with the Ultraman allegory Jet Jaguar, Godzilla's up here throwing peace signs and, basically, doing jump kicks, flying on his tail and stuff like that, jumping up and down, dancing and stuff like that, doing the face palm and stuff like that. Dude, it got ridiculous. it just got really ridiculous, dude. It was just so crazy. It was just so crazy back in the day. But they were fun. And they always featured like the humans that would say, hey, we need to go and get Godzilla. Not, hey, we need to be afraid of Godzilla. Hey, we need to go and get Godzilla and, hey, have him come and defeat these monsters and stuff like that. Man, it was just crazy, man. It was crazy back in the day. What do you remember of that era of films? Like, what sticks out to you, that era of film?
So I'm kind of curious. Was that like the culmination of the Godzilla cartoon?
The Godzilla cartoon didn't come until like the late 70s, early 80s, but you're not totally wrong, because they started to make, Godzilla, they didn't want him to be, rough and scary. It was just kind of like something they wanted to market to the kids, because, they wanted to sell Godzilla toys and, all this other kind of stuff. And that was almost like commercialism took over. It was less about the symbolism of what Godzilla was supposed to represent, and more about the symbolism, or not the symbolism, the commercialism of what he could bring in. Because that was literally Toho Pictures' cash cow. They put out a Godzilla movie in Japan, and it would make them so much money that they could fund all of their other projects that they wanted to do, back in the day. That
makes sense, because honestly, like during those, like, because I used to catch quite a few of them, like especially like when Sci-Fi Channel used to have marathons back in the day. So I caught up on those and like just saw like how crazy they got. The most memorable one that I remember seeing when I was growing up was, of course, the one when he faced King Kong and literally just bodied his ass,
dude.
And it was just like, why is this even a thing? Like, it wasn't even a fight. Like, it was just like, dude, like, this is like, y'all supposed to made a whole movie about this, and it was just like, okay, what else do they do now? Because this isn't a fight. Like, that was a one and done, and Kong was done with it. Like,
and dude, and remember back then, even when we were kids, I'm sure it was like cutting edge back then, but dude, it looks so bad Oh, it looks so bad when we were watching it as a kid. You could tell, okay, the effects on this thing just look so bad. The rubber suits, they're fake. How can we really lose ourselves in this? You know what I'm saying? How can we really lose ourselves in this? It just didn't make any sense whatsoever. But moving right along, when the 70s came along, and obviously there were some really good movies. Of course, there were some really bad ones. I already mentioned Godzilla versus Megalon, but the original Godzilla versus Mechagodzilla was really good. Terror of Mechagodzilla. The Mechagodzilla movies were pretty much the best ones that they had. Outside of, I think there was Godzilla versus Monster Zero, which was Godzilla versus King Ghidorah, who became his ultra nemesis. Back in the day, because he was, Ghidorah was a 3-headed, dragon basically. But they had some good ones, they had some bad ones, but they realized after Godzilla versus Megalon came out that the series had kind of really become a caricature. So they said, hey, the idea of Godzilla is kind of getting tired. Let's put him on the shelf for a while. So he went on the shelf for like 9 years, like after 1975. And then in 1984, they came out with what is known in Japan as, The Return of Godzilla, but we know it over here more as Godzilla 1985, The Legend Reborn, which is the Godzilla that's on this shirt that I'm wearing right now. And it's literally my most favorite Godzilla movie because it returned Godzilla to being, not an anti-hero. Not an anti-hero or even a hero or a champion of the people. No, this was something to be feared. Like it threw out every single movie that came out before it came out, except for the Godzilla of 1954. It was like, how nowadays how a lot of movies like a lot of movie series like Halloween and Terminator, how they're choosing to ignore certain films and just where they're throwing everything out. Godzilla did it first. Godzilla was like the first movie to ever do that. Like it was the first one because it was like, okay, we're gonna ignore all this other crap that came before. We're gonna return it back to its roots. And Lena, Miaoyin is in the chat and is talking about 1984. Cue the menacing music. That was the other thing that made Godzilla 1985 stand out. Was that soundtrack was incredible, man. The soundtrack was so good because it wasn't like, happy and funny. No, this was like dark and menacing and stuff like that. And then when Godzilla appeared on the screen, he wasn't taking any prisoners. Like he was literally destroying anything in his path. Like it was literally, Hannah Omega's like Godzilla 1985 is the one that ends in the volcano, right? Yes, that's the one that ends in the volcano because it was more about understand. It reframed Godzilla as almost like a force of nature, something that you couldn't avoid, but you had to somehow learn how to deal with because there's literally nothing that can stop him. You try missiles, doesn't work. Gunfire doesn't work. Bombs, planes, whatever you try, it doesn't work. He just keeps on coming. And they kind of had to try and devise like kind of a smart way around it, around maybe defeating him or sending him back home. And it was just, to me, it was the ultimate representation to me of what Godzilla is supposed to be. He's supposed to be this powerful force of nature that basically is your worst nightmare come to death, and come to life, and you have no one to blame but yourself because you created him. Like literally, you created this, and you're paying the penance for what you did. It's like it was an incredible film, and I know it hasn't aged very well for a lot of people, but to me it always holds a special place in my heart because it triggered probably what is known as the most successful era of Godzilla films, which they call the Heisei era of films, because right after that was Godzilla versus Biollante, Godzilla versus King Ghidorah, Godzilla versus Mothra, Godzilla versus Mechagodzilla, and these films built a narrative, somewhat like the original, like the Showa films, except for Godzilla never became like this hero that came to defend. He just happened to sense that there was this greater monster, and he liked fighting. He would just go and fight, like basically marking his territory. He would still menace the humans, but he would beat up the other monsters too. And then when he was done, he'd go home. It was just a really, really good movie. And Miao Yin's like, you make him sound like a Frankenstein's monster, but that's kind of literally what he is. Miao Yin, that's literally what he is. He's literally our own creation come back to haunt us. I know I've talked for a lot, but I don't know if you guys watched Godzilla 1985 before or have seen it. It's on my Plex if you haven't seen it before, Miao Yin. You have a pass, you can see it. You should watch it. It's actually a really good film, in my opinion. Oh yeah, Sam Champion, dude. It's my favorite Godzilla movie. Like it literally is. But yeah, it's the Heisei era of movies were probably considered the greatest era of the Godzilla movies, because at the end of this series is probably like the most unique Godzilla film in its history, which was Godzilla versus Destroyer. And I know some people may have seen it on cable before or not. But at the end of Godzilla versus Destroyer, Godzilla actually does die. And it's because he can't actually, he can't stop himself from dying, because he's accumulated so much radiation that his heart is going into meltdown. It burst basically at the end, and he died. So it was just an absolutely incredible movie. So go ahead and talk about that. And a lot of the junkies in the chat are speaking on it. Ace Arcadia, the 85 movie was nice. Absolutely, it was. The Godzilla anime that just came out not too long ago wasn't too bad either. But go ahead and speak on some of what I talked about, because I've kind of run for a little while. What do you got to say?
I think you got this, Dido.
What do you mean I got it? I have never been a fan of Godzilla because of everything you just said.
It's the Showa era?
All of them is just like, that's the reason why you're watching the movie, for the destruction. I don't really see Godzilla as something that has character. It's like a tornado. It's like a friggin' earthquake. It's there doing one specific thing. The humans try to make the movie worth watching, but I found out that most of the movies that I watch, the humans are boring. I mean, I literally sat down and tried to watch the original black and white Godzilla, and I fell asleep on it. I don't know if I was tired. I don't know if I was bored. I would like to watch it again, because I don't like to give unfair assessments on something I can't remember. But like almost every Godzilla movie I've watched is almost always the same thing, and I'm just like, all right, I appreciate that people like these movies. I'm glad that you do like these movies, but it's the same thing with me in giant robot anime. I just don't really get into it, because unless the anime or the thing is not about the actual robots, it's about the people, and they try, most of the time they don't know how to balance that, where the storytelling is not done by the draw, which is Godzilla or the big robots. They don't do it well. There have been some big robot anime that I have enjoyed, because
Voltron.
I loved Voltron, and it wasn't about Voltron, as you
Giant
know.
Robo.
Giant Robo. Did I remember Giant
Robo?
Robo?
Dude, Giant Robo, come on, dude. Are you kidding?
I'm trying to remember what
man. Big Fire?
Oh yeah, Giant Robo. Yeah. Is that the one with the Zuma drives?
Yeah. So I mean, basically, Giant Robo is Johnny Sacco and his flying robot in anime.
And those are some of the ones that I really liked a whole bunch, because it was literally about the people, and the robots were
you just highlighted what kind of makes Godzilla a little bit special. It's kind of the people that are in the story too. I can't
remember any of the people. That's the whole thing. I don't remember any of them.
And I guess that's what made the Heisei era of films so good, because there was a run of people in there that kind of persisted throughout the films. Like one was, I think it was Miki Seguchi. She was actually a telepath. She was an Esper, and she actually had a kind of a connection with Godzilla, so she could kind of communicate with him a little bit, not necessarily know exactly what he's thinking, but kind of direct him and kind of get him to come and help too. And she would like be able to sense when he's coming. So, and they actually built this whole narrative around in Japan, they created a section of government called the Godzilla Defense Force, basically, and it was like a whole wing of the military where they created like weapons to either combat Godzilla and kind of drive him away. They knew they couldn't destroy him, or in some cases they would work with him in order to defeat a monster that was coming to threaten them. So like aliens didn't make Mechagodzilla in the Heisei era. The Japanese government did, and it was a weapon used to fight Godzilla, and actually almost succeeded. But a lot of the stuff in there, you know what? I've got all of the Heisei movies on my Plex. I would love for you to watch.
Like I said, I will sit down and watch them because that's how I am. I am a person that will always try to give something a fair shake at it. And my opinion may be changed. It's never always like some people were stuck in the mud. But at this moment, there's nothing that drew me into a Godzilla movie. It's almost the same thing. It's just like I said, it's just like giant robot movies or anime and Godzilla all seem to be in the same category where unless they do a great job with the moving the story along with the people, it's really just like fluff. But I am open to watching them again and seeing them done hopefully better, because I've seen some of the cheesy ones with the baby Godzilla and he's just like flying across, flying kicks and all that other stuff. And I was like, I don't even remember how the story that was going, like Monster Island, I think it was, or something like that.
Yeah, it was Monster Island. Yeah, it was Monster Island.
So I don't,
if you're not a fan of the Showa era Godzilla movies, I'm not. I don't.
I have to say,
yeah,
the last King Kong movie that they came out with. Now
Kong Skull Island. Yeah.
No, Kong. They did a great job with that, because I think that the people in it and the story that they had about finding Kong, I think they did real good. So if it's similar people that produced this one, then it may be something that I could sit there and watch and enjoy.
Kong was savage.
Kong Skull Island was really well done. It was much better done than I anticipated. It was way better done than I really anticipated. And I was very much looking forward to another one. And when they teased at the end that it's connected to the Godzilla universe, I was like, oh baby, it's about to be something else when it happens, because the Godzilla that's in the legendary films squaring up against King Kong. Of course, you know what? Looking at it right now, there's no way that you think that the Kong that's in Kong Skull Island would even be able to step to the Godzilla in the legendary films, because he's just too big. Godzilla is just too big. There's no way. But
the new Kong, my understanding was really big too.
They did increase Kong's size, though.
They did, but I don't think it's enough to mess with Godzilla. I could be wrong with that.
I don't know. Like I think because, see, you know what it is. I think with a lot of it has to do with the fact that the last Godzilla movie, because like you kind of had like limited, like a limited view of him. It's like you knew he was like larger than life or whatever, but because you kind of had this limited view of him, it was kind of like, well, damn, could we focus on Godzilla a little bit more? Because like they focus more on the humans than that. But, it's like I get what they were trying to do with that first movie, because essentially they were just trying to show them trying to survive the disaster that is Godzilla. So it's like, okay, I get it.
You know what? Here's the other thing that kind of made me mad about the 2014 Godzilla movie, even though I did like it. What made me mad is that, remember when the first trailer came out and they kind of showed that there was just this swath of destruction just everywhere, and then you see the shadow of Godzilla and he roars, you're just thinking that, okay, Godzilla is like, they're going to make an American Godzilla and he's going to be the villain. And I was just like, oh man, this is like, I can't wait for this, because I wanted to see, because that's what we didn't get with that abomination that Matthew Broderick starred in 1998. Oh my God, that movie was so bad.
The classic Ronald Emmerich.
Oh Jesus, dude, that movie was so bad.
Oh, that movie's a classic in its own right.
Oh no, classically bad. No, dude, they should never ever talk about that film. That movie was so bad. Like I want them to burn all masters of that film.
Hey,
like that, it should never be shown again.
Remember the animated series they made after it?
Which is surprising, because the animated series I actually kind of liked. I liked it better than the movie. I did. I did.
Oh yeah, that movie there. Like I see,
Yeah.
you know what? That crazily enough, I only had like so much. Like I was only so familiar with Godzilla up to that point when that movie came out because I think I was like 13 when that movie came out. So it was like I'm watching it and it's just like, oh, all this crazy stuff. Okay, that's cool, but you know, and then they kind of tried to go to the Jurassic Park route with it, like the last part with like all the little Godzillas in Madison Square Garden and all that, and it just kind of just got weird, and I don't know, like it's like I don't know, like it. I don't know. Like it really seems like a lot of his movies just really got hokier and hokier the more he made them. It's like, okay, Independence Day, it was hokey, but it was cool for what it was. Then you know, it's like again, it's like the more movies he made, the more hokier they got. Cause like I remember when everybody was making a big deal when 2012 first came out, and like I was so disappointed with that movie because it was just like crazily enough, as much people like I think like didn't he direct Day After Tomorrow as well? If I remember correctly.
Yes, I think that was the return to theaters for him.
Yeah, and it's like, and as much as I wound up liking that movie, it was kind of disappointing when you got to 2012 because like 2012 was like just so extra hokey and just silly, and I'm just like, dude, what? It's like I don't know, it's, you know, but you know, it's something that was there. You know, folks can revisit it if you want. I don't know how you guys feel about it, but you know, it's there back in 1998. You know, Puff Daddy and the family in tow.
Right.
So.
Right. So Dido had to bow out. He's got work in the morning, so it's just going to be the two of us carrying the show the rest of the way. So obviously after the Heisei era, which you know ended fantastically with Godzilla versus Destroyer, which you know it might be my second or third favorite Godzilla movie. Godzilla, you know, Sharita Jackson had asked me about Godzilla versus Mothra from the Heisei era, which I thought was really good. I thought, like I said, I thought all of those Heisei era Godzilla films, with the exception of Godzilla versus Biollante, I didn't really like that. But every one of those was really good. Space Godzilla versus Space Godzilla was kind of on the lower rung, but I didn't really like much the Godzilla Millennium films that they came out with in Japan, which was after you know the Matthew Broderick abomination. Toho immediately yanked those rights back from Sony and was like, no, we can't have you ruin our brand. No. We'll do it ourselves. So they came out with Godzilla 2000, which was the next movie that was released over in America, and it was kind of supposed to wash the palate out of the mouths of the American audiences about what Godzilla really was supposed to be like. So, but that movie was saw Godzilla as a villain. Godzilla, Mothra, Ghidorah, All Out Monsters Attack was another one, and I forget. Oh, it was Godzilla versus another Godzilla versus Mecha Godzilla, and in all of the Millennium movies, Godzilla was more or less a villain. Like in all of those, he was not friendly to humanity in any way, shape, or form. He would fight the other monsters if he had to, but first and foremost, he was the villain. He was going on the attack because he wanted to either destroy something, or he was looking for you know, nuclear power, or he was just raging against the world. So those movies, and of course then you got Godzilla Final Wars, which it's interesting. What can we say about Final Wars? Final Wars is a very special movie. Like, sort of like that. Godzilla Final Wars was essentially almost like a love letter to Godzilla, you know, et al. Because I think it was made around his 50th anniversary back in 2004. And Godzilla Final Wars saw him fight every single kaiju that has ever been in the entire series. Like the aliens from from the Showa era films, the ones that had those like, remember, you know how on Star Trek Next Generation, Geordi had the visor glasses or something like that. Well,
Right, yeah.
that was kind of like a riff of like what the Showa era Godzilla aliens had. They would wear these black suits with these white visors over their face, and it looked like the Geordi LaForge visor. But basically, they came back to Earth and they gained control of every single kaiju on the planet. And Godzilla was awakened. They couldn't take control of Godzilla, but basically their plan was to destroy Godzilla once and for all by making him run through a gauntlet of all of his villains. And Godzilla just pretty much just ran the gamut. He was running through them dudes. And the funniest scene was they even threw the 1998 Matthew Broderick Godzilla in there for like a quick cameo, and Godzilla dismissed him with the quickness, almost like with a backhand. It was great because the Japanese made fun of that Godzilla film. They really did. It was funny. I think there was a line in Japanese. They said, he was like, "Hey, did you hear about that time that Godzilla attacked America?" He's like, "Well, you know," and another guy was like, "Well, they say it was Godzilla, but it really wasn't. None of us over here think that it was Godzilla." So it was hilarious, dude. It was great. It was absolutely great, that whole line.
Oh, that is great.
Yeah, the sick burn was great. It was awesome. But yeah, Godzilla ran through all of them dudes in Godzilla Final Wars, and the movie was a fun movie. It really was fun. It wasn't serious. Godzilla wasn't the villain. He was kind of just the anti-hero. He was just it was like Godzilla's the baddest dude on the block, basically. Earth is his domain. If you step to him, he will step up and fight you. Period. Right. That's it.
Right.
That's it.
It's basically just is like, hey, you defending my he's defending his territory. That's essentially what it is. It's like, hey, you step over the boundaries, you catch your hands.
And I guess that's the other thing about Godzilla that makes him good, a good character, is because when he goes on rampages like he did in Godzilla Final Wars, you can't help but cheer for him. Because like Hand of Omega even said it. It was like, in the movie in Final Wars, he got entrapped in ice and like all the kaiju were taking over the planet. And the humans basically went to the ice where he was, and I think it was in the South Pole or something like that, where Godzilla was captured. And when the humans freed Godzilla, he came out of that ice. He was so pissed off. It was like, and you could see it, and he was like, "Oh, dude, he's about to wreck some shop now." And it was great. It was absolutely great, man. It was a great film. But then after Final Wars, they kind of put Godzilla back on the shelf again until Legendary Pictures got the license and they came out with 2014's Godzilla. So long story short, I kind of wanted to, kind of get ready to close the show a little bit by asking what everybody's favorite depiction of Godzilla is. And I even put a poll on the Culture Junkies fan page earlier about which Godzilla do you prefer, the hero Godzilla or the I don't give a fuck Godzilla, basically. And so obviously the one I voted for was the I don't give a fuck Godzilla, because that's the best Godzilla that's out there. Like, he's the one that is like, I don't care, if you human, kaiju, if alien, you come on my block, I'm fucking you up. Basically, that's how it is. And that's pretty much how it is. And he's not a hero. He's not nice. He just handles business. Period. That's it.
Right. Personally, it's like I gotta say that I'm partial to the what did you say it was, the Legendary Pictures?
Yeah, the Legendary Pictures ones. Yeah,
it's like I'm partial to this version of Godzilla because it definitely goes back to formula with the character with that first movie. So it was like between that and actually really getting the sense of how much of a destructive force he is, and it was just kind of like, ooh, damn, because it's like, again, like one of the things I did like about the first movie, aside from some of the other gripes, was the fact that it's like, okay, Godzilla essentially is the character, but at the same time, he's also the disaster. Like all the stuff.
Exactly.
It's like everything that was happening to the human characters. It's like all that was its own character, and it was like that's what kind of made that interesting for me, and it just made me look forward to seeing. It's like, I'm kind of interested to see what else they do. So now we got King of the Monsters coming out, and it's just like, oh man, this is like this about to be extra ridiculous now, because it's just like, again, you watch the trailers, you see cities getting wiped off the map, like just like in the instant. It's like, dude, it's like, okay, where do humans even fit into all this now at this point? Just
right.
It's like, where do they even fit in? Because it's just like, now it's like, look, yeah, it's like, bro, look, we just gonna back Godzilla and let him handle business, because we can't do nothing about any of this.
And so
nothing.
like, right, because like the 2014, Legendary Pictures Godzilla, like I said before, it kind of threw me for a loop personally, because I thought he was going to be the villain, and they kind of did a swerve and kind of made him the de facto protector of the Earth, whereas he's not necessarily looking to hurt humans, and maybe he's not even really looking to save humans either. He's just out to defeat the monsters that are basically running wild on the planet. And that's kind of the same premise of what's going on here, where you've got humans doing stupid human shit again. Like, and that's literally what this movie comes out to be.
That's all it is.
Because, like, dude, it's like you got Ghidorah encased in ice, and you decide to free him. What is your problem? Like, what are you thinking?
I wouldn't doubt it if it like wound up being something to where it's like, okay, they couldn't prepare for Godzilla, so maybe it's like, oh, maybe we can get a step ahead with this guy and destroy the other one. And it's like, no, that's not how that's gonna work, sir. Just leave it encased in ice where it's been peacefully, please. But again, scientists are always the one that fucks everything up. That's been the staple of science fiction.
Right, man. It's like the scientists be the smartest dudes in the room, but do the dumbest shit ever. Like, really. It's like they have zero common sense. None. No common sense. So, yeah. So, Godzilla King of Monsters comes out on Friday. Honestly, I can't wait to see it. I haven't really seen anybody else really talking in the chat about what their favorite depiction of Godzilla is. I've already talked ad nauseum about what my favorite movie version of Godzilla is, and that's the Heisei era of Godzilla, because that's kind of the one that I grew up with for the most part. Even though I saw like a lot of the Showa era movies as a kid, I didn't really like those because I in a way I kind of did think they were kind of silly. And the Heisei era movies were not silly for the most part. I won't say that they weren't silly in some parts, because they were, but for the most part they weren't. Because like, you know what, like, here's a perfect example of that, right? In the Heisei era version of Godzilla versus King Ghidorah, right? It was kind of revealed that Godzilla was actually a mutated dinosaur that was left that kind of was back in 1954. Like he was like a lost dinosaur, a carryover from the ancient age, what they called the Godzillasaurus. And he got hit by the atomic bomb and got turned into Godzilla. Well, this Japanese, military man actually saw the Godzillasaurus on the island and kind of tried to, he got saved by the Godzillasaurus because they were being attacked by the Americans. And he kind of remembered him and, gave him a salute, an honorable, farewell, because, he saved their regiment. And he remembered him all those years later. So when Godzilla came to town this one time, and he came face to face with him, like Godzilla walked up to his building, right? Walked up to his building, and it was like he turned around. It was like the camera saw, it was like panning back and forth between Godzilla's face and this guy's face, almost like Godzilla recognized the dude. And the guy was like so thankful for Godzilla. He was like, Godzilla, thank you so much for saving my life. Thank you so much. And Godzilla was just, standing there looking at him. He even gave him a nod real quick, and then blew him away. It was great, dude. It was awesome. He blew him away with his fire breath. It was great. It was just great. It was like, so you got those moments of where it's silly, but it's awful, but Godzilla's a straight savage at the same time too. So he is, and that's what I like so much about the Heisei era Godzilla, is that he was just a straight savage. He didn't care. It was awesome. It was really truly awesome. So if you haven't checked out the Heisei era Godzilla movies, if you're into Godzilla or kaiju movies at all, I would definitely recommend checking them out. Those ones to me are the best run of Godzilla movies that you will ever find outside of the Legendary Pictures movies, which are very, very good. Who was the guy who walked right up to Godzilla, lit a cigarette, and yelled Godzilla's name before he tore the building down in the film? I don't remember that one. I don't remember that one at all. But anyway, yeah, go and check out the Heisei era Godzilla films if you've never seen them before. They are really awesome. I think you'll really enjoy them. So, and definitely go check out Godzilla King of Monsters when it comes out in the theaters this Friday. It's been, a good time talking to you guys, but I think we're going to wrap up the show now. Usually we end up going a little bit too long, so it's nice to get out while we're ahead. So next week, so next week, on next week's show, Yang Yin already did a great job preparing the show for us. Next week, we're going to be talking about our favorite action films, and I'm not quite clear what exactly the subject matter is. I think we might be creating a new top 5 of our favorite action films altogether. Speaking of action films, my daughter got introduced to Arnold's Total Recall today for the first time. Like she happened to see it. It was on AMC, and I was like, this is literally one of Arnold's best movies ever. And she was like, what's it called? And I was like, it's Total Recall. And she was like really enamored with it. She thought it was really good. So we'll be discussing what makes a good action film and what are some of our top 5 action films. I'm sure John Wick, Baba Yaga will probably be on the list without question. But it's gonna be tough. It's gonna be tough. But make sure
you're gonna have to show her The Running Man now, right?
Oh, of course, of course. Oh, of course. I'll show her all those old Arnold movies because, they were great. They were great. Classic 80s Arnold, man, he might be the best action hero ever. He might be the best action hero ever. But we'll have that debate next week right here on our show, Wednesday, 9 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Central Time. Make sure you join us next week. And if you haven't done so yet, please do follow us on our YouTube channel and right here on our Facebook channel so you make sure you stay tuned for the next show. So for my friend Fallen Marvel and my other friend, the Great Dadakuji, who joined us on the show, I'm Kishiro. We'll see you guys next week. We hope you have a great weekend. It's out.
Later, Junkies.